What's up, you guys? Adam here with Anabolic Climbing, and today it's finally here, the Nandrolone Tendon Review. Does it build tendons of steel in record time? Does it leave you broken, heavy, waterlogged, and with a lighter wallet? Well, rock climbing's favorite mad scientist is here to break it down for you, so don't forget to hit like and subscribe, and let's jump into it. To be honest, it took me a lot of time to write this because there's a lot of contradicting information out there as it relates to Nandrolone and for tendon integrity. I've seen everything from positive outcomes in vitro studies, deleterious effects on tendons in non-exercise instances, having exercise act as a resistance builder when Nandrolone was added, or having exercise counteract the effects or the deleterious effects of Nandrolone on tendons. The short answer is, while I know that it's incredibly anabolic and a major driver of collagen synthesis, it's a little bit all over the map as it relates to tendons. So I just wanted to go through the research. I'll give you guys my sources, and we can go a bit deeper from there. I just want to give you a bit of a primer of what this video is not. I'm not going to give you a full breakdown of what Nandrolone is. Like, I'm going to give you the overview, the basics, but if you want a super deep dive from a bodybuilding and muscle building perspective, check out Coach Colton, check out Vigorous Steve, check out Dr. Todd from Anabolic University. All of them are amazing resources. This video is going to be limited specifically to tendons, even though we're going to give a little bit of a primer as to what the compound is, the side effects, how to mitigate some of that. But without further ado, let's just jump right into it. And if you have no interest in any of the primer, I will leave a timestamp in the description, and you could skip straight into the tendon analysis. So, Nandrolone is one of the favorite compounds of strength athletes everywhere. As far as I could tell, it's the first 19-nor testosterone derivative ever developed, which it was in the 1950s, and it has two common esters. You have Nandrolone phenylpropionate and Nandrolone Decanoate, aka NPP and Deca. NPP has a half-life of about 3 days, and Deca's is between 6 to 12. And the compound is naturally occurring in the human body, so it's technically endogenous, but taking any amount exogenously immediately takes you to supraphysiological levels. One of the other things that's kind of important, and I'll kind of mention this a bit more as we look into the studies, is it does need estrogen to work properly and to get the full benefit. And while there are folks that use Nandrolone-only cycles, it's way more potent when you either take some exogenous estradiol or some exogenous testosterone to raise your estrogen to give the Nandrolone something to work off of. So, one of the other things to keep in mind is when you do take Nandrolone, it can raise your baseline estrogen as well. In my case, at my dose, it's about 20%. And it has a lot of unique and interesting properties that are kind of exclusive to Nandrolone. Number one, and one of the reasons most older athletes are into it, is it increases the synovial fluid in the joints, so it makes the joints feel more lubricated. If you've got something clicky or achy, people report that things just move a little bit more fluidly, and in a lot of ways, it's kind of like putting lipstick on a pig. It's not going to fix your injury, but it will make it feel better. So there are a lot of guys with busted shoulders or jacked up hips that really like Deca just because it gives them better quality of life. And if that's you, it's probably a compound worth considering. Also, as far as I know, this is one of the compounds that upregulates collagen synthesis more than anything else that I have found. That includes Anavar, that includes EQ. I believe it upregulates collagen synthesis higher than growth hormone, but don't hold me to that. And there's reasons why I prefer growth hormone over Nandrolone for this particular point. And, you know, with just giving you guys this primer, sounds amazing, right? Like, why aren't we all pinning Deca, like, right now? And I've broken this down in other videos before, but the short answer is 19 nors are kind of wacky. Number one, it'll upregulate your sympathetic drive. So that's why a lot of folks that use Nandrolone or Trenbolone develop increased levels of anxiety or depression. The short answer is you feel sort of like you're in more of a fight or flight mode. And while I personally have not felt that from the emotional perspective, the sympathetic drive is real. When I was checking my Garmin over the better course of the last 2 weeks, I was like, man, my resting heart rate is like 7 to 9 beats per minute higher. Is that something that's been happening since I started test or something exclusive to my Nandrolone experiment? And you can literally tell from the day that I started pinning the NPP that my heart rate went up between 7 and 9 BPM, which was kind of alarming, but, you know, it's also going to increase my total red blood cell count, just is what it is. And, you know, no big deal for me thus far, but I discussed in my previous reasons why I discontinued. I had reasons for it. One of the other things to be aware of is it's neurologically toxic. In the case of Trenbolone, it can have some pretty serious frontal cortex remodeling. Folks that have been exposed to Trenbolone and other 19-nor in the water next to like cattle fields have a 10% drop in IQ on average, which is kind of spooky. In addition to that, one of the other things is it has pretty large raising on both estrogen and prolactin, which makes it super likely to cause gyno. And in the event, or increased breast tissue, and in the event that that happens and you start feeling some sensitivity, you kind of have to play this guessing game of, do I have to lower my prolactin or do I have to lower my estradiol? And you can do that with an aromatase inhibitor. You could do that for, in the case of estrogen, you can do that with cabergoline or P5P if it's your prolactin. But if you're not getting your blood work done frequently, which you absolutely should be, you know, then you're playing a guessing game and you're hoping you don't crush the wrong one by accident. So, Nandrolone has its downsides, and it's also an incredibly potent anabolic and a great driver for muscle protein synthesis, obviously. But, you know, we're not trying to get super jacked. We want super jacked tendies. And in my opinion, or at least from my experience, the amount of weight that I was carrying was outweighing, or rather going faster than the amount of strength I was acquiring, which is one of the reasons why I discontinued it. A lot of that was probably glycogen and water and everything else, but it was, I did not have enough benefits from the joint lubrication to really enjoy it. Anyway, now that the preamble is sort of out of the way, and we are about 7 minutes, or 7.5 minutes into the video, let's start going into the tendon research specifically. One of the first things we're going to talk about is comparing it to growth hormone. There was a Turkish study done in 2003. I'm going to pull up right here, where they basically compared HGH versus NPP, and they were looking at the ischemic colon anastomosis in rats, and they were looking at the collagen deposition for the bursting and increase for both NPP and HGH users, and they were looking at the therapeutic effects in rats. And basically what they found is for the soft tissue healing, that HGH was more preferable. In a perfect world, I would be able to find some sort of study where it's using both of them combined, where we could see the NPP and the growth hormone together healing soft tissue stuff and sort of see if we have a synergistic effect or a 1 + 1 = 3. But I've looked all over the internet, couldn't find anything. If you did, let me know. But GH was better at remodeling the soft tissue than the NPP, even though both drove collagen synthesis in a statistically significant way. The next study worth considering, and this is where we get all sorts of fun stuff, is the effects of Nandrolone Decanoate on skeletal muscle and at the neuromuscular junction of sedentary and exercise rats. So basically what they did was they gave a boatload of Deca to these rats, about 10 milligrams per kilogram. And they had one group that was sedentary, one group that was sedentary on Deca, one group that exercised, and one group that was given exercise and Deca. And they looked at the organ health, they looked at the muscle health, they looked at the collagen health, and to no surprise, if you do kind of the human equivalent of about, 700 milligrams of Deca, your organs are going to be stressed, your muscles are going to look a little wonky, and this was kind of the interesting thing to me. So you can see the collagen deposition right here in the Nandrolone Decanoate Sedentary study, and oh boy, is that way too much collagen in the tendon right there. And you can also see it right here in the UV breakdown as well. From my understanding, tendons strengthen the most when the lattice structure is lateral. So when you're going side to side, that's when you're going to get the strongest tendon modeling. So when you see just tendons everywhere, I think that's why they account for the stiffening of it. So with that said, when you include exercise, the tendons do look much different, and it appears like the tendons are reinforced, but this is sort of what you're going to get for the stiffening. And keep this stuff in mind, because we're going to come back to this later, because even though this is what a better tendon would look like, there's another study that mentions that even though that this is suboptimal structure, it can handle higher mechanical loads. So we'll come back to that a bit later. The short answer to keep in mind right now, though, is things get wonky. And by the way, if you are not exercising and using Deca, sweet lord, their muscles looked worse, their organs had collagen depositions. This was bad news bears. So, while I know a lot of people tend to get really annoyed and be like, oh, I could just use testosterone and grow more muscle than people that lift, or the people that lift that are natties. I'm like, yeah, if you pin half a gram of test, you're going to grow more than natties that are lifting. It appears that what would happen to your tendons if you did that with Deca would be super spooky, and I don't plan to test that. Anyway, moving forward, I do want to talk to some other doctors to make sure that my conclusions are correct. I spoke to a couple, and they basically gave me the concept of the lateral deposition, which is cool. But if that's incorrect, I will correct that down the line. The other thing is, even though you could potentially use Deca for the increased collagen deposition, it appears that you could discontinue the drug and remodel the tendons afterwards. So you could realistically use Deca, according to the research anyways, 6 to 12 weeks, get some weird looking but potentially stronger and stiffer tendons, discontinue the drug, and then use that added collagen to add more flexibility down the line and continue to keep the mechanically sound loading. But now let's sort of go to the last article around Nandrolone Decanoate and the load increase and remodeling in the human supraspinatus bioartificial tendons. So they basically made some fake tendons, gave some amount of Deca. I couldn't get access to the full article, so I'm just going off of the headlines here. But basically, the chemically enhanced with Deca tendons were able to hold a higher mechanical load than their natural counterpart. And I think that's super interesting, and that kind of goes to my thought that even if the structural integrity is not superior than its natural counterpart, it still becomes a stronger tool. And it might potentially be more brittle, it might potentially be more injury prone, and both of those things could compound because you could pull higher loads. But if your only goal is just how much can I pull or how strong can I make this tendon for a mechanical force, it appears in the literature and also anecdotally with both powerlifters and bodybuilders that Deca certainly has a place because, think about it this way, right? If people that used anabolic steroids had severely diminished tendon quality, you would never see them outperform natural lifters. And, maybe that's a little bit of a bad faith argument but the point is, every world record in powerlifting is done by enhanced competitors. And yeah, tendon tears do happen for sure, but tendon tears also happen in natural athletes as well. I can't really find any data showing that one is more prone than the other. But the short answer is you can have enhanced athletes and have their tendons handle the increased loads that are way heavier than any natural athlete or natural athlete tendon could tolerate. So yeah, man, it certainly has its place for strength athletes. With that said, I kind of want to give you my conclusions on this, right? Like, I don't think Nandrolone has a place in rock climbing for the most part. I think you're just going to get too big, especially if you're running it with a test base or if you're throwing in some growth hormone. The synergy for hypertrophy and muscle building is just going to be too much because of how the different family groups of the testosterone and the 19-nor derivatives synergize really well with each other, and you're going to get really big. I think it's just too much. If I were an open weight grip athlete, though, I would probably pin a bunch of GH and pin a bunch of Nandrolone and see how much I could push it. I think that would be really interesting. And, you know, I'm sure a whole bunch of powerlifters and a whole bunch of arm wrestlers and a whole bunch of, like, grip athletes can, like, let me know about that. And if you are in the comments and you're one of them, please let me know. But I don't think for rock climbers it's really an optimal compound with, like, some of the weight limits we impose on ourselves. I think that just 19 Nors might make us a little bit too big. That said, if I'm wrong, let me know. I'm going to include links to all the studies in the description box below. If you have any questions or corrections, please shoot me an email at anabolicclimbing@gmail.com. Happy to post a correction. As always, really appreciate you guys if you stuck around this far. Do not forget to like and subscribe. By the way, blood work, always a good decision whether you're natty or not. One of the partners for the channel is Anabolic Insights. They're a big supporter of this channel. If you want to get super affordable blood work through them, please take a look at the affiliate link in the description box below. They also have built-in AI graphs, so you can upload all of your previous blood work, start to chart trends for your biomarkers. I love them. I'm getting some lab work done next week. Really stoked to post that as well for the recent experiment. And yeah, just really big appreciation to Anabolic Insights for the support of the channel. Anyways, guys, appreciate you as always. This is Adam with Anabolic Climbing, giving you guys a front double on the way out and wishing you guys super happy Sunding. I appreciate you. By the way, I will be posting this article on anabolicclimbing.com later this week, and I'll talk to you soon. Cheers.